Thanks for the intro, Kimberly. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's session. As Kimberly mentioned, we are going to give you a presentation of Velixo and how it can help you with your reporting. And basically, I'm going to start by giving you a presentation of the company. Right after that, I'm going to jump into a demo of the product and a walk through the features. While I'm progressing through the demo, I invite you to input your questions in the chat. I have my colleague Alexander who's monitoring the questions here. He will make sure to answer your questions in the chat. If it ever needs to be demoed or the question needs a little bit an answer a little bit more detailed, we'll make sure to reach out to you post-webinar. With that being said, I am going to start the presentation. So what is Velixo? Basically, Velixo is an Excel add-in that is going to allow you to extract all the data you have in Acumatica, put it into Excel. It can be either financials, it can be projects, it can be also any generic inquiry you have in Acumatica. You can combine them all into one single sheet or even one single report based on your needs. And once the magic is done on your worksheet, you can simply push it back with the click of a button into your ERP. For the little story, we were founded in 2017 by Gabriel Michaud here on the screen. He is actually an ex-Acumatica leader who saw the opportunity to build Velixo as an Excel add-in as he witnessed that users kept going back to Excel for their reporting needs. Fast forward a couple years, we were awarded top application in the Acumatica ecosystem, and G2 awarded us users most likely to recommend. We now operate in all time zones. As you can see here on the little map, we have a team distributed all over the world. We serve 2,000 plus customers and work with over 200 partners globally. For the little story, last year only we were able to onboard more than 700 new customers from the Acumatica ecosystem alone. So what problem does Velixo solve? Basically, we solve the problem with manual spreadsheet. So what is the problem with manual spreadsheets actually? First thing first, it's a completely disconnected experience. So the second you export your data into Excel, it becomes obsolete and it cannot be trusted anymore. And for this reason, it becomes repetitive and time-consuming to produce reports, and it's also incredibly error-prone. And on top of that, governance issues can happen as it can get challenging to manage document access for everybody on your team and externally. And on top of that, changes cannot be written back to your ERP unless if you do it manually. So how do we solve this problem? Basically, you have Velixo, that's an Excel add-in that is going to be up to speed in minutes. It offers real-time reporting capabilities. It allows you to write the data back to Acumatica for journal transactions, budget, project accounting, and also any generic inquiry you have in Acumatica. It won't be hard to master it thanks to its native functions, thanks to its Excel-like functions actually. And it respects Acumatica security. What does it mean? Basically, you can log in to Velixo using your Acumatica credentials, so we kind of mirror the level of security that is set in Acumatica. And on top of that, it's Excel, so users benefit from the whole Microsoft 365 suite for better collaboration and efficiency. So here's a slide of our some of our happy customers. As you may notice, we're industry agnostic, and for the little story, KFC was actually our first real use case. So now it's demo time. I am going to stop sharing this screen, and I'll open my Google Chrome. All right. So first thing you want to do is download Velixo. Simply type on your search bar, download Velixo. It is going to redirect you to our own website. And on this page, you're going to have the choice between two different versions. It is going to be the same Velixo. The only difference is that the insider channel will be updated several times per year automatically, while on the annual channel, you will have to update it once to twice a year manually. And of course, we keep you posted with new features, bug fixes, and things like that in our newsletter. So you choose the version you want to go with, choose the language, and click to download the driver. So here on the side, I have my driver that has been downloaded in a couple of seconds. Once it's ready, I can simply click on it to execute it. I'm not going to do it for the sake of this example. I already have it installed in my computer. But I'm pretty sure you all know what it looks like. It's basically same as installing any other application on your computer. So once it's ready, I can open Excel. And here, you notice that it's a normal spreadsheet. Nothing has changed, except if you look up top here in the ribbon, you will notice this new little tab called Velixo. So if I click on it, you will see that we've added a couple of features and functions into Excel, and I'm going to demonstrate how it works in a couple of seconds. Before, I just want to show you basically some sample reports that are available to get you started. So for example, this is for the project report sample pack. You have a project dashboard, you have a work in progress report, and you have your project forecast template. This is basically what is going to serve you to push your project accounting data back into your ERP. We also have another sample pack that I'm going to work you more in detail in a couple of minutes, featuring a P&L, a consolidated one, a cash flow statement, and some templates for your writebacks. So once you have Velixo installed on your computer and running on Excel, first thing you want to do is set up the connection between your workbook and your ERP. So you're going to have to use the connection manager to do that. Right after that, I'm going to tell you about the drill down feature. This is going to allow you to click on any given cell on any given sheet and go back to that source transaction in Acumatica. I'm also going to tell you about the distribution feature. This is a pretty solid one. It is going to allow you to distribute and save your reports from a single template on Excel without having to leave into File, Save, and so on. And last but not least, I'm going to tell you about the writebacks. So there are 4 different types of writebacks that we are going to explore as well. So let's start by setting up the connection. So I'll edit this one as it's already ready. So first thing first, it's prompting me to choose a name for my connection. Always try to keep this one short, as it is going to serve, as you are going to have to use it in your Velixo formulas. Then I'll have to input my Acumatica URL, which I can simply copy paste from my login page. Right after that, it is going to ask you to specify a tenant. Here in my demo instance, I have multiple tenants. I'm going to start by working with the company tenant. So I input the company, the name of my tenant. To make it easier on you, I could have named my connection after my, my tenant. And then I'm going to have to input my Acumatica credentials. Simply click on connect. You may notice this little SSO button here on the side. You can use it as an additional layer of security or simply if you want to log in faster. Let's just give it a quick second here. All right, I think it was already connected, so I might just cancel. So, of course, a question that comes up quite often, if I do have multiple tenants, can I set up multiple connections? Of course. So here is the connection for my company tenant. If I want to set up another connection, for example, for my ACE tenant or for my stand-up IT tenant, I can simply go ahead and add an additional connection in here, and I will be able to pull and push data from these instances simultaneously. So I cheated a little bit, but let's say first thing you want to do is start by building a trial balance, something very basic. And by the way, for most of the reports that you build with Velixo, it's a one-time thing. So you would need to build the report, and after that, it's simply about refreshing the data with your ERP or simply making minor changes to your report. So to build a trial balance, I'm going to need my accounts. I'm going to need their names and the balances. In order to pull my accounts, I've used this little function right here called insert chart of accounts. So I clicked on it, it prompted me to choose a connection, I inputted it, and this way I was able to pull my accounts. To pull the account names, I've used one of the 90 Velixo formulas. So I clicked here, insert a function. Actually, let me go on this cell. Insert a function. If I click on the little drop-down list here and I go down, you will notice that we've added multiple Velixo group formulas. So in this case, we were building a trial balance. We're going to use the general ledger functions. We were trying to pull the account name, so I can simply use the account name function. Pretty straightforward. So while using this function, it is going to populate my account names. And by the way, it's always dynamic information being pulled from Acumatica, which means if I go back to Acumatica and change one of my account names, it will reflect in here as soon as I click the refresh button. We've actually tested it in the past. As you can see here, my first account is called Petty Cash, the second one is called Test2. So to pull the balance, same logic, I'm going to have to use account ending balance. And every time I use one of the Velixo formulas, you're going to have this little window help that populates. And what it does, it kind of acts as your coach here. So it prompted me to enter my connection name, which is demo. Then prompted me to enter from which ledger I want to pull the information, from my actual ledger. I did not use account class for this example. I could have. I specified from which account I want to pull the info. I could have used sub account, but I did not. I could have used branch as well, but I tried to keep it short. And then I specified my financial period. This way I was able to pull the balances for the actual ledger for this specific financial period. Of course, if you want to compare two different ledgers, it is possible. Simply change the information and it is going to pull the information live from Acumatica. Same thing applies for financial period. As you can see here, I'm comparing 2020 with 2029. And here's the beauty of it. You can kind of mix and match the Velixo formulas along with the Excel formulas. So in this case, I needed to know my variance. I simply used this cell minus this cell, which is an Excel formula, relatively simple. Now I want to tell you basically about the way we've came up with to kind of group your accounts. So you can either group your accounts by lists, by ranges, or by what we call here wildcards. So let's say, for example, I want to showcase the same calculations for 3 specific accounts. Let's go, for example, with 10,100, 10,200, and let me go a little bit down. I'm going to go for 15,200. So now it is showcasing the information for these 3 specific accounts. If I want it to be a list, I can simply ask it, go from 10,100 up to 15,200. And it is going to change the information accordingly. Now, let's say I want to pull all of the accounts starting with 11. In this case, my accounts have 5 digits, so I'm going to have to complete that with question marks. Of course, you have the option to exclude as well. Let's say, for example, you want all of them that start with 11 except from 11,500. It is going to change my calculations accordingly. And this is a pretty solid feature as well. Can be used with letters, numbers, doesn't matter. You can use it in your sub accounts. You can use it to group your accounts by types. I'm going to show you basically an actual use case where we did it here for our P&L. Okay. So here, this is a P&L that is available for you to get started with. This is currently showcasing the consolidated information. As it's dynamic, I can, of course, toggle between my branches. I can, for example, choose to showcase for my Western branch only. And with a simple click of a button, it is going to pull the information from Acumatica and truncate my P&L based on the data that I have in my ERP. You can choose to showcase 2 branches at the same time. I'm just going to go back to the consolidated one. I think you get the idea here. If I click on the little plus here, you're going to see that we've grouped our accounts, for example, our expenses account under the office expenses, advertisement expenses, other expenses. In here to pull the cost of goods sold, we've used the little wildcard technique that I just showed you right now. And here's a consolidated P&L, showcasing, for example, branches side by side. You have a trailing one with a little bit of data visualization on the side. Here's a relatively simple dashboard just to remind you that you can build dashboards on Excel as well. For example, this is showing the cumulative sales by month. This is showing the sales by rep. Again, it's dynamic information. I have information for my whole organization. I can now filter through branches if I want to. Now, I want to tell you about the drill down feature. Let's say, for example, I want to know what is this number made of. I can simply click on the cell, then click on drill down, and what it is going to do, basically, it is going to populate a new sheet listing all of the transactions involved in this number. So in here, I can already get a better picture. I know that this was, for example, insurance, this was rent, this was some supplies, this was a travel expense. If I need to push it even further, I can click on view transactions here on the side, and it is going to redirect me to my source transaction page in Acumatica. Oops, I'll have to log in. So when I click on view transactions, it brings me back to that source transaction page in Acumatica, where now I already have a better picture. I can see my ending balance. I have the description. I can see that it's a night at the Hilton. If I want to dig even further, I can click on reference number, and I'll be on that specific transaction page. And I can click here on the attachment to pull the actual invoice related to this transaction. So here I have my invoice from the Hilton. It was for Thomas. I can check the amount and so on. So I think you guys get the picture around again here. Next thing I want to show you is how to pull GIs, okay? So actually I'm gonna do this one from scratch, even though it's already built. I'm gonna have to go back to Acumatica. Let's work with our account payables, for example, bills and adjustments. I'm not customizing anything on Acumatica. I am just trying to copy paste my inquiry title. All right. So now let's say, for example, I want to pull my bills and adjustments, okay? It's a generic inquiry in Acumatica. So here in Velixo, I'm going to have to use GI for generic inquiry. And pay attention to the coach here. It is going to come really handy. Now it's prompting me to enter my connection name, demo. Now it's prompting me to enter name. I can see that it's the name of the generic inquiry. So I'm going to paste that here. And I'm going to prompt it to pull my generic inquiry into here. So it did pull all of the headers in my generic inquiry. If I go back here and I click on view inquiry, and if we compare these headers, you will notice that it's exactly the same thing. Basically, it pulled all of the information in my generic inquiry. Let's say I don't need all of this information. Of course, I can truncate it to only keep the essentials. So let's say, for example, I only want to keep vendor, status, and currency. I'll just need to specify that, and it is going to truncate my generic inquiry to only keep the columns or the headers that I will need. Now, let's say you need to filter a little bit more into this information. Right now, it is showing me all of the vendors under all of the statuses under all of the currencies, okay? Let's say, for example, I only wanted to pull my transit vendor, and I wanted to pull the transactions under an open status. I'll have to set up a generic inquiry filter. Again, pretty straightforward. What I'll have to do is GI for generic inquiry and filter, and input follow basically the my coach's instructions. And again, in most cases, this is a one-time thing. You build your reports and then you're good to go. So I want vendor to be equal to whatever is in this cell, and I want status to be equal to whatever is in this cell. All right, so now my filter is set. I'm gonna go back to my initial function. You may have noticed that I left a little blank space between the two commas. My coach says it's the place for my filter. So all I have to do now is put my filter in the right place, and it is going to truncate the information to only show me what I wanted to see based on my filter. Of course, you can hide the filter, same as we did in the P&L showcased earlier. You can have, for example, your vendors in a drop-down list in here and toggle in between them. Same thing as we did, for example, here with the branches. And same thing applies for status. So let's say, for example, I want to play around with the information a bit. It is now pulling in real time all of the transactions for my transit vendor that are closed. So next, I am going to tell you about the distribution feature. So once you've made your magic here on your reports, everything is good. Maybe now it's time to share some insights with your colleagues or even externally. So all you need to do is click on New List, and it is going to populate this exact template. I'm using this one for this example as it's already filled out. We want to save some time. So from this template, you will be able to send or distribute to your third parties these reports, and you can choose from this column under which format you want to share it. So for example, you can share it as under an Excel sheet. You can choose to remove the Velixo formulas. You can choose to remove all of the formulas, including the Excel ones, or you can simply choose to share it as a PDF. On this column, you will need to name your file. On the tab selection column, this is where you're going to select basically those tabs that you want to share with that specific person, because of course you're not forced to share your whole workbook. In here, in folder path, if you guys are using, for example, any sort of cloud saving solution, such as SharePoint, OneDrive, wherever it may be, you can simply input the folder path in here, and it is going to save it in that space. So really no need to go into File, Save, and choose the right format. It is going to do it for you. You will need to input the email contacts in here, the email subject, and email body. If you have any additional attachments, such as a JPEG, could be a logo, wherever it may be, you can simply add it in here, and it is going to do. Here, on the email delivery option, I have it under Save to Drafts. I can choose to send it immediately, but as a best practice, we suggest you keep it as Save Drafts. So once this is done, you can simply click on Distribute All, and it is going to start the distribution. I'm going to go into my Outlook and show you how it would look like. So I'll go into Drafts. All right, and you can see here that, for example, David is going to receive as soon as I click on Send the Western Prof P&L report under a PDF format. You can see that his email is already inputted, the email subject as well, the email body as well. Same thing applies for Jenny, who received the Eastern one. Our CEO, for example, received the P&L by branch, and he received also the whole workbook under an Excel format. Question that comes up sometimes as well is that, can you automate this task? For example, if you have reports to send on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, wherever it may be, yes, you can using the Task Scheduler Manager. So last but not least, I am going to tell you now about the write-back functions. So as I mentioned, there's 4 different types of write-backs. You have the journal write-backs, budget write-backs, project write-backs, and also any generic inquiry write-back. So same concept as the distribution list. As soon as you click on the journal transaction or budget, wherever it may be, it is going to populate a template that can, of course, be customized based on your needs. So for example, this is a template that we've customized for one of our customers that is already pre-built. The situation here was that they needed to push back some GL entries based on a GL rate that would change on a weekly basis. So let's say, for example, the rate is not 3.1, it's 3.1. I can simply change it. Excel does the calculations for me. And now I can simply click on Perform Write Back, and it is going to push the data back into Acumatica. So click on OK to confirm. And I'll give it roughly 5 seconds here for it to be processed. All right, so 6 journal entries were processed. Now you notice it is redirecting me to the journal transaction page in Acumatica. It's prompting me to double check my journal entries. If everything makes sense, I can simply remove the hold and click on release to save the new entries into Acumatica. If I go back to my workbook, you will see that you have the automatically release feature here. Again, as a best practice, we suggest you keep it as a no, but if I set it as a yes, as soon as I would click on perform write back, it is going to save the information into Acumatica without even prompting me to remove the hold and release here. So same logic applies for the budget write back. As soon as you click on it, it is going to populate this template. Again, could be customized based on your needs. I know this is pretty much all filled out, but by any means, you would only need to fill out those cells that you want to push back to Acumatica. For example, let's say I only want to change this one. I want to lower my forecast from 100% to maybe 50%. Change it in here and click on perform write back. You do have the release feature in here as well. For the project write back, I showed you at the beginning of the presentation the project write back template. Basically, it is going to allow you to track the project progress. And for the generic inquiry write back, you will have basically to choose an import scenario. Choosing an import scenario basically just means choosing basically the topic that you want to push back. So earlier when pulling data for bills and adjustments, you have the option to push back bills and adjustments as well. So we compared basically when we pulled the bills and adjustments generic inquiry, we compared those headers that showed up. We've seen that it's the same. So it is going to be, again, a template customized based on your needs. You can do it for pretty much everything. For example, in here you have your customers, your bill of material, cash purchases, could be, for example, I don't know, maybe employee payroll setting, time activities, pretty much everything. So let's look at the bills and adjustment template. So here it is. Again, if I go back into my import scenario into Acumatica and I compare these columns, you're going to see that I have the exact same headers. I don't need to fill out the whole line or the whole tab. If, for example, I only want to push back a vendor ID and a branch and, for example, a quantity and a unit cost, I will simply need to input these 4 informations and perform write back. For those who wants to see how it looks like in Acumatica, you have your import scenarios in here. Okay. And as you notice, you have the little plus button in here, so you can always add import scenarios based on your needs. It's a pretty fast process. The DSD folks can assist you with that if needed. With that being said, I am done presenting. I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat. Oh, actually, I can't see the questions, so I'm done with the presentation. Maybe if you have any questions, I can start answering them. Back to you, Kim.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. So Alex has been answering any that have come through. But if you have any additional ones, please don't hesitate, attendees. This is your time with the experts.
So we do have a training program. Actually, let me show you basically how our e-learning platform looks like. So first thing first, you always have access to our knowledge base, where you're going to be able to find the help with the functions. Okay, in here. Oh, I realized I'm not screen sharing. I'm sorry, everyone. Or I am. Am
No,
I
you
still?
are. You are.
You are?
Yep,
Okay, I'm
it's your
sorry.
knowledge base. No worries.
So here on the knowledge base, you will always be able to find helps can be regarding the functions, could be regarding troubleshooting anything, or again, can be just about using the templates. To go on a kind of a little bit more advanced level, we have learning.velixo.com. So basically, you have access to 3 different sessions, okay? So each one of these sessions will cover different topics, leveling up, of course, until the end of the session. And I'm happy to introduce you actually Harry, our instructor here at Velixo. So this is not a e-learning platform where it's pre-recorded videos and you just sign in, watch the videos and take a quiz and then you log off. Basically, this is live webinar. So each session would take up to 30 persons, and you will need to basically book a time using the link in here. So You'll come in, you see the available slots. I can see the earliest one is for the 16th, so it's for next week. I can simply pick it and go for that session. You can take unlimited amounts of sessions. So for example, if you feel like you want to take the second session 3 times, you can go for it. No one is going to stop you. If you want to do the same for the third session as well, same thing applies. And the sessions are recorded for you. So if you want to go back to them afterwards, or maybe you're working on your reports and you want to take a look at them, you can of course always go back to the recordings for additional information. One last piece is that it's unlimited people on these classes. So for example, I don't know, maybe you have 4 people that are going to be using Velixo, maybe you have 10 of them that are going to be using Velixo, it does not matter. All of them can sign up and take these classes. For additional support, for example, if you need help with building your reports, things like that, Kim mentioned it earlier in the presentation. They actually use Velixo for their own needs internally, and most of their customers actually use Velixo. They have quite a few competent people who are Velixo certified, so there's no doubt they will be able to assist you in the best way possible.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of Velixo experts here at DSD as well. And I think I will say, I think it's pretty intuitive. It's it's not a sharp learning curve. And if you love Excel, you're gonna love having the integration with your Acumatica system.
Any other questions?
I don't see any yet. Attendees, this is your time. Oh, we did just get one. So thank you, Charlie. So the question is, are we able to use this to upload bills from vendors if those purchases are linked to purchase orders in Acumatica?
Can I please ask you, Kim, to repeat the question as I don't have access to read it?
Yeah, sure. So the question is, are we able to use this to upload bills from the vendors if those purchases are linked to purchase orders in Acumatica?
I think the simple answer would be yes. Yes, I can tell it's feasible, but we can absolutely reach out to you, Charlie, after the webinar to see what your process looks like, and we can actually showcase how it's done live. So we'll look at your process, we'll see how you want to pull the information, and we'll give you an answer based on that. If it's possible, we'll basically show you how it's done within a couple of minutes.
Great. Yeah, trust is great. Yeah, and attendees, of course, we will absolutely take questions after this webinar if something comes up, or you're actively using Excel outside your system now, and you're like, I wonder if this would work with Velixo. That, as Hamza said that it's pretty intuitive, and the short answer is probably yes. I will also say that you guys continue to evolve the product, and as Acumatica releases come out, I think there's a lot of development that goes on the Velixo side too. So it's very exciting. So thank you again, Velixo team, and thank you attendees for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.